Have you ever stopped to think about what is happening around us? Wars, hunger, pandemics, devastating earthquakes. Coincidence or signs that we are living in the last days? The book of Revelation, written almost 2,000 years ago, contains so frighteningly accurate prophecies that many believe that 2025 may be the year when they begin to unfold irreversibly. But what is really coming? Are we about to witness events such as the Four Nights of Destruction, the fall of empires, and the emergence of a global control system? And, more importantly, how can we prepare to face this scenario without fear and discernment? In this video, let's dive into the 10 most terrifying prophecies of Revelation and reveal how they may be fulfilling each other before our eyes. If you want to know the truth and understand the signs of the times, stay until the end, because what we will show can change your vision about the future and your own life. End-time signs have always generated heated debates, but never before seemed as evident as now. Biblical prophecies written for centuries begin to align with global events in a distinct way. The book of Revelation warns us about a period of great tribulation, where natural disasters, conflicts, and spiritual mistakes intensify, preparing the ground for a new chapter of humanity. But are we recognizing these signs or simply ignores them, believing that it is all a natural cycle of history? The truth is that many events described in the New Testament have already come true: devastating wars, hunger plaguing entire nations, pandemics reconfiguring societies, and the rise of control systems that limit people's freedom. When we look at the scriptures, we realize that these events are not just a chance, but part of a detailed prophetic plan. Revelation is not a book of vague metaphors, but a map of the future that requires discernment to be understood. If 2025 is really a milestone for the realization of these prophecies, we need to be prepared. What was once treated as legend or exaggeration now is clearly and frighteningly real. Each event described by John on the island of Patmos points to an undisputed truth: the world we know is changing. The big question is, are you ready to deal with it? Since time immemorial, the world has witnessed great crises, but nothing compares to what the four nights of Revelation represent. These prophetic figures symbolize destructive forces that will sweep the earth in the last days, bringing mistake, war, hunger, and death. Each night carries a dark destination and a warning to those who pay attention to the signs of the times. Are they mere metaphors or omens that are already being fulfilled? Let's look at them one by one. The White Knight is the most enigmatic. Some believe that it represents Christ, bringing a period of victory and justice, while others see in him Antichrist, a charismatic leader who will deceive crowds with false promises of peace. In a world where leaders manipulate the truth and sell illusions to control the masses, it is not difficult to see this prophecy taking shape. We are facing a time where spiritual discernment becomes essential not to be deceived. The Red Knight represents war and violence. Prophecy says that he will take the peace of the earth, and just look at the headlines to realize that armed conflicts, political tensions, and nuclear threats are on the rise. Then comes the Black Knight, bringing hunger and economic crisis, something we already see with the financial collapse and the trigger in food prices. Finally, the Pale Knight carries the weight of death, representing pandemics, disasters, and mass destruction. Is all this happening before our eyes? Imagine such a catastrophic event that Earth itself would shudder like never before. The book of Revelation describes a great earthquake that will not be a natural phenomenon, but a divine sign, shaking not only the soil but also the structures of the world. John reports that the sky will curl like a scroll, and all mountains and islands will be removed from their places. In other words, nothing will remain untouched. What seemed solid and unchanging will shatter before the eyes of humanity. Interestingly, in recent years we have seen an increase in the frequency and intensity of earthquakes around the world. Scientists try to explain these changes as a result of natural geological processes, but for those who study biblical prophecy, the connection is evident. Also, when we look at the scriptures, we realize that the earthquake will not come alone. It will be accompanied by cosmic signs, such as the darkening of the sun and moon becoming as blood, phenomena that already arouse curiosity even between secular scholars. Given this scenario, is a question: are we prepared for when the stability of the world is shaken? This earthquake does not only symbolize physical destruction, but also the fall of empires, control systems, and human certainties. It will be a final call for those who still doubt the fulfillment of the prophecies. However, in the midst of chaos, there is also a promise those who trust God will find security, even when everything around seems to crumble. Few prophecies of apocalypse generate both debate and restlessness as the mark of the beast. The book of Revelation, chapter 13, warns us about a global system where no one can buy or sell without carrying this brand, associated with number 666. But what exactly does that mean? Throughout history, many have tried to interpret this prophecy, relating it to totalitarian governments, digital currencies, artificial intelligence, and even implantable identification technologies. What once seemed like science fiction now becomes a frighteningly real possibility. We live in a time when global control intensifies every day. New laws, surveillance systems, and the advance of financial digitization indicate that the world is moving towards a scenario where individual freedom can be severely limited. Imagine a future where all economic transactions are tracked, where your ability to buy and sell depends on complying with a centralized system. Prophecy suggests that accepting this mark will not only mean economic but also spiritual submission, driving the faithful away from divine purpose. Given this reality, it is essential to discern times and make conscious decisions. Are we quickly approaching this system? How to avoid falling into the traps of a world that requires compliance at any cost? The answer may be in faith, prayer, and the search for truth. In times of uncertainty, those who trust God will find direction and protection. In the end, the question is not just about a control system, but about who really rules the heart and life of each one. The touch of the seven trumpets marks a succession of catastrophic events, each bringing a divine judgment on the earth. These signs are not mere metaphors, but concrete warnings that the world as we know will be drastically transformed. From devastating plagues to unprecedented natural disasters, each trumpet announces a new level of tribulation. For those who ignore biblical prophecies, everything may seem just a cycle of crisis. But for those who understand the signs, it is the unfolding of the divine plan. The first trumpet brings fire and hail mixed with blood, burning a third of trees and vegetation. The second turns a large sea into blood, killing marine life and impacting the global economy. The third trumpet falls like a meteor, poisoning sources of drinking water. And then the fourth trumpet darkens the sun, the moon, and the stars, plunging the world into darkness. Imagine the psychological and physical impact of this without light, without direction, without hope for those who are not prepared. And the worst is yet to come. The last three trumpets are known as the AIS, as they bring even more severe sufferings. Demonic creatures torment humanity, the Euphrates River dries down to prepare the way for the final war, and the Dark Kingdom takes over. But even in this scenario of destruction, prophecy also points to a chance of regret. God always offers a way out to those who seek the truth. The question is, when the signs are visible to everyone, will there still be time to change their way? Babylon has always been a symbol of power, wealth, and corruption. In the Book of Apocalypse, it represents a global empire, full of lust and mistake, which dominates nations and controls world trade. But its fall is inevitable. Prophecy warns us that in a single day this great power will be destroyed, and those who trusted their system will be perplexed and terrified. Which once seemed unshakable will crumble before everyone's eyes. Are we already seeing the first signs of this ruin? Today, great economic and political powers have an unprecedented rule over the world. Corporations and governments establish interconnected financial systems, and the desire for profit and power overcomes any moral concern. However, the apocalypse makes it clear that this empire will not last forever. As in the past, when empires such as Rome and Babylon have fallen unexpectedly, the fate of current systems may be no different. Global crisis and growing instability are already foreshadowed that nothing is eternal. But what does this mean to us? Prophecy not only reveals the destruction of Babylon, but also a call so that the faithful do not attach to what is passing. Those who place their hope in the system of the world run the risk of being dragged along with it. The fall of Babylon is a reminder that only what is based on God will remain. In times of uncertainty, we need to decide, where do we really put our trust? In the midst of the Great Tribulation, two powerful testimonies arose, sent by God to proclaim the truth in a world plunged into darkness. Revelation describes these two testimonies as prophets who will have the authority to perform miracles, prevent it from raining, turning waters into blood, and hurting the earth with pests. They will not be well received by the rulers and most of humanity, for their words will confront the system of corruption and deception that will dominate the world. But as much as they try to silence them, their mission will be fulfilled. The two witnesses will face relentless persecution, and in the end they will be killed by the forces of Antichrist. Their bodies will be exposed publicly, and the world will celebrate his death, as if they have overcome the truth. However, after 3.5 days, a shocking event will happen. They will be resurrected before all, and will be taken to heaven. This moment will be a watershed, making it clear that God is in control and that judgment on earth is inevitable. Imagine the impact of this event. It will be a direct blow to the pride of those who reject the truth. But who will be these two witnesses? Some believe they will be Moses and Elijah returning, while others see in them a symbol of the church and the people of God, who will remain faithful to the end. Regardless of the exact identity, its role is clear: to call humanity to repentance and warn that time is running out. The question that remains is, when these messengers arise, will the world be ready to hear? Or will the heart of humanity be too hard to accept the truth? After all tribulations, judgments, and destruction, Apocalypse presents us with a glorious view: New Jerusalem, a heavenly city where God will dwell with his people forever. Unlike any city that has existed, this will be a place without pain, without death, without tears, just peace and eternal joy. The Bible describes its jasp walls, pure gold streets, and a glow that comes directly from the glory of God. But the real wonder is not in precious materials, but in the fact that it will be a definitive home for those who remained faithful. Many live as if this world were all that exists, but prophecy makes it clear that the New Jerusalem will be the true reward. Life on earth is passing, full of challenges and uncertainties, but those who trust God know that the best is yet to come. Imagine a place where there is no injustice, where there are no oppressive control systems, where each person experiences absolute peace. This promise shows that the current suffering will not be the final chapter of human history. But how can we be sure that we will be there? Revelation makes it clear that this city is for those who remain faithful and whose names are written in the book of life. The good news is that there is still time to prepare. The decision to live according to divine purposes can be taken today. After all, if there is something that this prophecy teaches us, it is that the events of the end are not only about destruction, but also about redemption and hope. The only question left is, are you ready for this new reality? With each passing day, the signs described in the Apocalypse seem to become more evident. The prophecies that once seemed distant now intertwine with the events of the modern world. But what does all this mean to you? Are we prepared for the challenges to come? More than fear of the future, the true call of these revelations is for reflection, discernment, and spiritual preparation. Given these warnings, the best attitude is not fear, but the search for answers and strengthening of faith. Revelation is not just a catastrophe book, but a message of hope for those who trust God. The time to act is now, seeking knowledge, deepening your spirituality, and understanding that, in the end, victory has already been determined. The final destination is not the destruction, but the redemption and promise of New Jerusalem. And you, what do you think of all this? Are you ready to face this reality, or do you still have doubts? Leave your comment and share this content so that more people can reflect on the times we live in. And of course, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and follow more content like this. There is much more to explore, and together, we can better understand the mysteries of the end times.